Hey everyone, welcome back to a new video here. We're on the Coquitlam River in Port Coquitlam, BC, and there's a scene I'm going to be painting on the lower left, and I liked it because there's a triangle between the tree in the upper middle left, and then the rock down below, and then the small rock in the river, and you'll see me sketch that out here shortly. What I liked is the reflection of the trees also pulled you down towards that lower rock, which will be the feature of the painting, as you can see that I've just sketched in there. And I'm more or less just trying to find my way through the scene here. When you're painting plein air, you don't have a photo reference, so it's a lot harder to sketch. So you're just comparing one area to another in relation to another area. And that's pretty much it. And moving on, each subsequent steps will help you build even more of the drawing. The squiggle between the landmass and the rock there that you see me putting in the darks is just the indication of the water break, where it gets fast and where it gets slow. Here I am throwing in indications of darks, and those are the tree reflections I was talking about before, helping you pull you down to that mass and over to that rock. Laying in my basic greens here, this is sort of a spring, so the greens are starting to come out, but they're not fully out, which I think makes for a more interesting painting. When you get everything green, to me, it just overwhelms the situation. I'm laying in the backwater here, and I usually throw my water in rather dark, even though I'm going to be putting lights on top of it, and you'll see why in a little bit. And then I'm putting in a little bit darker water where it's still, and a little bit cooler as well. Just trying to lay everything in, get the white of the canvas removed. I don't typically tone my canvas, and that's because I like to wipe off. And when you wipe off, I like the transparency that the white helps create. I'm just throwing in the reflections here in the water of the lighter green. Trying to just do a random pattern. You don't really want anything too precise and consistent, I think. You just try to make everything really light and soft, more or less, at the beginning. Here I was putting in the lights at the rock, and now I'm putting in the dark mass of the land there, and I'm going to build on top of that. Like oil painting, you usually start from dark to light. There are situations where that changes, but overall, that's how I deal with things. Here, just laying in the trees. Of course, they're just silhouettes, more or less, and as you can see from the image as well, they are silhouettes. But in real life, you can see a subtle shift here and there, and you'll probably see me add those elements into those trees a little bit later. Trying to build up that little peninsula coming off the top, and just reinforcing those tree reflections. Oh yeah, so you can see I put in a secondary tone on those trees to kind of build them up, cool them off a little bit as well to help them recede. Throwing in some lighter greens here and there just to start the process of putting in my lights. Sorry for the bad angle there. You catch my left shoulder occasionally and it kind of blocks the view, but that was kind of how everything was set up at the time. Throwing in some transitions on the rock, trying to bend the form a little bit. Trying to keep in mind that I still have a light on the rock and I don't lose that. I move around the painting a lot, and I find that really helps the process. If you spend too long on one thing, you get frustrated and annoyed, and you just want to quit instead of moving on. So if you jump from one point to another, I think you have an opportunity to digest it for a while until you come back to it. And you can see right now I'm putting on the fast moving water lights on the darker upper water. And right now I'm just putting in a cool value, and I'll change the temperatures as I move on to create a little bit of dappled light. So you can see when I started putting all the blue on, see there's a little bit of warmer water there. Now the light had shifted so I could really see the dappled light, and so that's when I put it in. That's the beauty of plein air painting. You can start something off very dull and very cloudy, but 10 minutes later the sun comes out and it changes everything. Establishing even darker darks now on the landmass just really helps you guide you through that area. Trying to keep abstract because it's just a bunch of rocks and old overgrown roots. Trying to bring in a little bit of highlight against that rock there so it stands out, and some brighter reflections in the water. Making sure I maintain my tree reflections because that's what I wanted to bring you down to that area in the first place. And again, letters on the right of the rock to help it stand out a little bit. Even though it might not be like that in reality, I do that to help silhouette the rock. And I'm going lighter lights on the rock here, trying to establish the various planes. And here drawing in some just old mangled roots. You try to do your best in how they look, whether they're exact or not, it doesn't really matter, because in the end, the eventual buyer of the painting won't know. And now I start moving on to the sparklies of a bit of the water coming off of the fast moving water, because there are still ripples in that eddy pool, I guess, and so you still got to establish that to make sure that the water looks flat itself. And you can see it just clouded over, everything got a little bit darker. But I'm working on the lights of the dirt, and now I'm moving into the sort of the darker areas, moving into the reflections, moving back into the water, and then moving into the tree, trying to get a little bit of refinement on those trees, let them stand out a little bit more. Put some branches on them, some broken branches off of them, just to give it a more realistic representation. And here I'm dancing with my rigger brush, just trying to put in those reflections on the water. The little ripples you see here and there, and here I was just adding a little warmer temperature of a light value. And for me, that's the key to water, is shifting the temperature of the lights within the water itself. And that way you get a nice sense of the shadows of the water and then the highlights of the water that's reflecting the sun. Just moving back and forth, just doing a random squiggles, doing some dots here and there. That's what really gets the sense of water, more or less. And this area is working on, and just keep trying to keep those trees. And now I just put one line across, get rid of it again, fix my reflection, a little bit lighter value, adjust. And how long have I've worked on this area? What, 3, 4, 5 times now? And so I let it be, move on to something else, and now I'm coming back and working on it again. And I think this time I just leave it alone, more or less. Yeah. So sometimes you got to rework an area until you're happy with it. Put in the letters in the water again, trying to get that one root to stand out. So your idea is your eye comes from down to the tree, through the reflections, into the highlight coming through the root and down to the rock. Again, doing the squiggles. I didn't like what I did, so I erased it, moved on to something else, and I'll probably come back again. Yes, there I am doing it again. So it's a real dance back and forth. No area is completely done until I close that Pashad box. You can see me just putting dabs of different values and different temperatures on that water, trying to get a sense of life within it. And now I'm doing some scratching. You always have those little bits of branches or twigs and sticks just hanging out. And so I just scratch them in, and it gives a sense of texture there as well. And keep on working. I signed the painting, but I don't think I'm really that done. So here's one stroke, and then I put on this last stroke, and it's finished. So if you've liked this video, please subscribe, share it with your friends. Follow me on Instagram at michaelking.ca. That's where I post most of my work. Thanks very much for watching.